Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in your senior years, you've lived through enough of life to know that the time ahead is not infinite, and that very fact should provoke not fear, but urgency. Urgency to live deliberately, to shed what is unnecessary, and to cultivate what is essential. But for many, the path forward is shrouded in avoidance, in comfort-seeking, and destructive habits that go unnoticed until it's too late. So let me be clear, you need to stop doing these 5 things right now, if you wish to preserve your dignity, your strength, and your soul in the years ahead. Too many people in their later years find themselves stuck in a loop, endlessly revisiting the past as though it were some golden era that will never be touched again. There is a seductive comfort in nostalgia. It allows you to retreat into memories where things made sense, where you were perhaps stronger, more relevant, or more admired. But that comfort can quickly turn into a prison. Living in the past is a subtle form of giving up. It's the act of anchoring your identity in something that no longer exists, hoping it will validate your worth in the present. That's not reflection, that's stagnation. The past has its place, certainly. You carry it like a foundation, like the roots of a tree, and there's wisdom to be drawn from the trials you've faced, the losses you've endured, and the victories you've achieved. But when you make the past your only reference point, when every conversation begins with a back in my day, you've ceased to be a participant in life and become a spectator to something that's already over. That robs you of agency. It convinces you that your best days are behind you, which is perhaps the most dangerous lie you can internalize. Memory is flawed. It's not a documentary. It's an emotional archive. We don't remember the past as it was. We remember it as it felt. And often, we edit those feelings. We remove the anxiety, the uncertainty, the frustration we had back then, and polish the experience until it shines like a jewel. That contrast makes the present feel dull in comparison, but it's an illusion. The present is where life actually happens. And the truth is, you can still create moments of beauty, of meaning, of connection, but only if you're not facing backward. There's also a kind of fear embedded in this obsession with the past. The fear that the future holds nothing of value anymore. That the world has changed so much that there's no place left for you in it. But fear doesn't justify surrender. If anything, it demands that you double down on what's real right now. The ability to adapt doesn't vanish with age. It requires more intention. The moment you believe that your identity is fixed, that who you are is entirely behind you, you've lost touch with what it means to be human. You are not a statue carved from stone. You are something alive, and living things change. You cannot relive your youth, but you can still live your life. And living means engaging with the world in front of you. That could mean learning something new, building a relationship you thought was long gone, or simply deciding not to speak about the past for a day, just to see what opens up when you don't lean on it. There's still time to grow, to offer something to the world that only you can give, based not just on who you were, but on who you are becoming. As the years pass, it becomes easier to justify letting things slide, eating what's convenient instead of what's good, skipping the walk because the weather's not ideal, avoiding challenges because they're uncomfortable. But the uncomfortable truth is this: aging is not an excuse for neglect. The body may naturally slow down, but surrendering to that process without resistance is the beginning of decline. Not just physical, but psychological. Health, both mental and physical, doesn't maintain itself. It has to be fought for, especially in the later stages of life. And the fight is not about vanity or some childish attempt to recapture youth. It's about retaining strength, clarity, and independence for as long as possible. The first mistake many people make is assuming that physical health is somehow optional after a certain age, as though it's a young person's game. But it's precisely because aging brings weakness and fragility that you must take it seriously. Your muscles will shrink if you don't use them. Your bones will soften. Your balance will deteriorate. This is not a prophecy. It's a physiological certainty. But the rate at which that happens is absolutely within your control. Resistance training, walking, stretching, none of these are extreme demands. They are the basics, and they are non-negotiable if you want to continue living on your own terms. Movement is medicine. It sends signals to your body and to your mind that you are still engaged with life, that you haven't given up. Then there's your mental health. Too many people dismiss the signs of cognitive decline or emotional numbing as a just part of getting old. That's wrong. Your mind, like your body, needs to be challenged to stay sharp. Reading something difficult, learning a new skill, having stimulating conversations, these are not indulgences. They are disciplines. Passive consumption of television, mindless scrolling, or simply retreating into silence will dull your edge faster than time ever could. The brain thrives on novelty, complexity, and effort. The moment you stop feeding it those things, it begins to wither. And don't ignore the relationship between physical and mental health. They are deeply connected. Exercise improves mood. Nutrition affects clarity of thought. Poor sleep impairs memory. These are not separate systems, they are intertwined. One cannot be neglected without dragging down the other. It's tempting to think that slowing down is the only option, but often the slowness is a product of inactivity, not inevitability. A short daily walk can stabilize blood pressure. A bit of strength training can prevent a hip fracture that would have otherwise changed the course of your life. Simple habits can have enormous consequences. Perhaps the most tragic outcome of neglecting health is the slow erosion of dignity. To become dependent, to lose control over your own body and mind is not just a medical issue. It's existential. Every small effort you make now is an act of rebellion against that decline. It's a way of saying that your life still matters, that your presence still counts, and that you are not done participating in the world. Human beings are not designed to be alone. We are social creatures to the core, built for connection, interaction, and the give and take of relationship. And yet, as people enter their senior years, isolation becomes a creeping threat, one that often goes unnoticed until it's already taken hold. Friends move away. Family members get busy with their own lives. Loved ones pass on. It becomes easier to stay home, to stop reaching out, to avoid the discomfort of vulnerability or new beginnings. But make no mistake, isolation is not just a lonely experience, it is a dangerous one. It corrodes the soul, dulls the mind, and accelerates both physical and emotional decline. There is a quiet lie many older people tell themselves: I don't want to be a burden. And so they withdraw. They stop initiating phone calls. They wait for others to come to them. They convince themselves that the younger generation doesn't care or that society has passed them by. But often, this is just a shield, one that hides the deeper truth, which is fear. Fear of rejection, of not fitting in, of being reminded that the world has changed and they no longer know where they belong. But choosing isolation as a defense mechanism never brings peace. It just deepens the ache. Community isn't something that only young people need. In fact, it might be more essential in the later chapters of life. Having people to talk to, laugh with, and share stories with doesn't just fill time. It sustains meaning. We make sense of ourselves in relation to others. Our thoughts become sharper when they're spoken aloud. Our feelings become lighter when shared. Even casual encounters, a chat with a neighbor, a friendly exchange with a cashier, reinforce the idea that you still exist in the social fabric of life, and there is still so much you can offer. Age doesn't make you irrelevant. If anything, it gives you insight, patience, and perspective that younger people desperately need, even if they don't always ask for it. Mentorship isn't a formal role. It's something you embody when you choose to stay connected. Your presence, your stories, your encouragement, they matter. But they can only matter if you're willing to show up. That might mean joining a local group, calling an old friend, volunteering, or simply saying yes to an invitation instead of making an excuse. It takes courage to reconnect, especially after years of drifting into solitude. But that courage pays dividends. Studies show that people who maintain strong social ties live longer, experience less cognitive decline, and report higher levels of satisfaction and happiness. These are not trivial benefits. They are the difference between merely existing and truly living. So don't wait for someone else to bridge the gap. Be the one to extend your hand, to make the call, to open the door. Because isolation is not just the absence of others, it's the absence of purpose. And nothing restores purpose faster than meaningful connection. It's almost become a cliche to hear someone in their later years shake their head and mutter, "Oh, the world today." As if everything has gone wrong, as if values have vanished, and as if the world that once made sense is now irredeemably broken. That bitterness may feel justified. After all, the pace of change in the modern world is dizzying. Technology, culture, language, politics, it all seems to be in constant flux, often in ways that feel alien or even threatening. But the real danger isn't the change itself. It's the resentment that follows when you refuse to engage with it. Complaining about the state of the world offers a short-term emotional release. It gives the illusion of moral high ground, of wisdom forged by time. But underneath it lies something much less noble. Helplessness masked as superiority. It's easy to point to everything that's wrong when you've convinced yourself that there's nothing you can do. But that's not wisdom. That's bitterness. Yeah, and bitterness is a toxin, one that not only poisons your relationships with others but slowly eats away at your own spirit. The temptation to reject the present and romanticize the past is a form of escapism. Yes, perhaps there was more clarity once. Maybe people seem more polite, more grounded. But every generation has its flaws. Every era has been both a mess and a miracle in its own way. What you're really mourning when you say things used to be better isn't the world, it's your place in it. It's the sense of control, influence, and relevance that felt more natural when you were younger. But aging doesn't mean irrelevance. It means shifting your role. And that requires humility. You have a choice. You can become the person who only criticizes from the sidelines, or you can become someone who offers guidance and strength. The world doesn't need more cynics. It needs anchors. People who have lived through hardship and haven't let it make them cold. People who can speak hard truths without contempt. If younger generations have lost their way, then show them the map. If values have eroded, then embody the ones you hold dear. Complaining has never changed a thing, but modeling integrity, kindness, and courage, that still matters. There's also something deeply ironic about refusing to understand the present. After all, weren't you once the rebel, the innovator, the one who pushed back against the norms of your own parents and grandparents? The world changed then too. And yet here you are, carrying forward everything you learned. What feels foreign now will become familiar with time. If you choose to engage with it rather than reject it outright, there's immense dignity in staying curious, in asking questions instead of making declarations, in offering wisdom rather than judgment. When you speak, people still listen. If you speak with love rather than disdain. So when you feel the urge to lament the world today, pause. Choose to speak in a way that builds, not breaks, because bitterness might be understandable, but it's never transformative. There is a deeply flawed belief that retirement is the finish line, a final chapter where one can finally do nothing and be free of pressure, responsibility, and expectations, but doing nothing isn't freedom. It's a slow erosion of meaning. Human beings are wired for purpose. We need something to aim at, something that demands our attention and effort, something that gets us out of bed in the morning with a sense of direction. The idea that you can simply stop working and still feel fulfilled is a fantasy, one that often leads to boredom, depression, and a hollow kind of drifting that's far more dangerous than stress ever was. It's not that you need to go back to a career or start chasing goals like you did in your 30s. It's that you still need a reason to engage with life. Whether it's caring for others, creating something, volunteering, learning, mentoring, or even simply cultivating deep relationships, purpose comes in many forms, but it doesn't show up on its own. You have to seek it. You have to choose it. Otherwise, you risk becoming a spectator of your own existence, living day after day without real investment or direction. When you postpone purpose, telling yourself you'll figure it out later, you begin to lose touch with the urgency of your own time. Later becomes never. And in the absence of meaningful effort, it becomes easier to fall into passive routines, watching television for hours, numbing out on trivial distractions, or simply going through the motions. These habits seem harmless, but over time they drain your vitality. Purpose, even in small doses, renews it. It gives structure to your days and meaning to your actions. People often underestimate the impact they can still have. Just because you've left the workforce doesn't mean your experience, your insight, your stories, and your presence have lost their value. On the contrary, this might be the first time in your life where you can use those things freely without the constraints of deadlines or paychecks. You've accumulated wisdom, you've endured loss, celebrated love, navigated hardship, and found resilience. There is someone who needs to hear what you've learned. There is someone you can help become stronger, more focused, or more hopeful simply by showing up and offering your attention. But you can't do that if you retreat into inertia. Purpose requires participation. You don't have to find something dramatic or world-changing. It could be tending a garden with care, writing letters to your grandchildren, leading a book club, teaching a neighbor how to fix something. These actions may seem small, but they carry enormous weight. They keep you connected to the larger web of life. They remind you that you still matter. Not just for what you've done in the past, but for what you're still capable of doing now. The time you have left is still yours. You can use it to drift, or you can use it to contribute. But one thing is certain, waiting for purpose to find you is a gamble you can't afford to take. So here we are. We've walked through 5 things you must stop doing if you want your senior years to be more than just a slow fade into the background. And let me remind you, this isn't about fear. This is about power. It's about reclaiming ownership over your time, your choices, and your identity. The world may not slow down for you. Your body may not do what it once did, but none of that takes away your ability to live with strength, clarity, and purpose. That is still yours, if you choose to claim it. Let go of the past. It taught you, but it doesn't define you. Honor your health. It's the vessel that carries your will. Reconnect with others. You are not meant to go through life alone. Release your bitterness. It costs more than it gives. And above all, stop postponing your purpose. Your final chapters deserve to be written with intention, not silence. You still have something to offer, something only you can give. And there is no better time than now. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your willingness to reflect. May you walk forward with courage, with clarity, and with conviction. Because your story isn't over. Not yet. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. And thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for listening.